night before. And then when I remember like the meeting, I can't what happened. That was that escrow call. Anyways, and so I was on the phone literally all day. And I got to go lay down, which that didn't go. Finally got to go lay down by 10 o'clock last night. Otherwise, I would be here all today. I just like, huh? Smart parts. Talk to you. Yeah.
Tried, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so Neil, right here in the front, him and Roy go to whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Got the sniffles all of a sudden. Allergies that were walked outside.
Stress. By the stress.
Oh,
A
no.
lot of stress.
Mostly just dizzy.
Well, that's the stress.
Yeah. So I was telling Ken, I was exhausted because
You are.
the night of the election, I had $1 million escrow that if it weren't done for 2.5 months, start falling apart. I said, it's all they yesterday, I can save it.
No.
Yeah, that's where the stress is coming from. That it wasn't the election. I'm good with the election. God has a plan.
$1 million escrow fell through.
Yeah, that's a
Nice
painful one.
Yeah, that hurt. It hurt. So that's where the stress came from. Everybody thinks it's because of the election. It's like, no. I just spent the last 24 hours trying to hold that together.
I bet you my eyes and sinuses. We were out in Fallon last night, trolling through the fields, the pastures.
And I just wanted for my part.
The AC just came on.
You're still.
You know, God's got a plan. He had a plan for me when I lost before and I came back. But in that 4 years, it was a very good time for me not to be in the position I was in. So it's not meant to be. There's always a plan.
Thanks for being
but
here
thank
today.
you.
Thanks for coming up here today.
Good morning, Dave. Hockaday.
Morning, group. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me?
No, we don't have them on mute.
Network bandwidth is low.
All right, Dave, we cannot hear
Can you
you.
hear me?
Well, now you're
Now you're on mute.
Now you're off.
Can you hear me now?
We have nothing from him. Let's try somebody else. Hey, Dave Ray, can you hear us? You're on mute.
Tell him in order to vote yay, he's gonna have to put a thumb up.
Can't hear
Nay.
Dave either. Dave's talking off. Yeah.
Nobody,
We
no,
have
we can't
nothing.
hear anybody.
Can you hear Aaron?
Hey, can you hear me?
Eric Malavsky.
Can you hear me
Esquire, Can
now?
you hear us and respond?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you.
Commissioner Hockaday, we can hear you too.
There.
Who's
Thank
that?
you.
There.
Alrighty.
That's why you're here. I would.
Yeah, I set those down there, so they're not in the way for now, thanks.
I didn't know if those were like classified, you know.
I think it was
They're
something.
super secret squirrel
I
documents.
think it was something about PAB bonds being given away or something.
Throw it away.
Yeah, right. That's a-
Russian intelligence.
Hillary Clinton handed them to me in the hallway. Okay, we're going to call this meeting of the Lyon County Board of County Commissioners to order. Today is Thursday, June 16th, 2022, 9 a.m. and we are in the FERNLEY Senior Center. Today's agenda action will be taken on all items unless otherwise noted. No action will be taken on any item unless it's properly agendized. To avoid meeting disruptions, please place cell phones and beepers in the silent mode or turn them off during the meeting. Board reserves the right to take items in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner. Items may be combined for consideration and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Restrictions on comments by the general public, any such restrictions must be reasonable and may restrict the time, place, and manner of the comments, but may not restrict the comments based upon viewpoint. Board of County Commissioners convening as other boards. Members of the Board of County Commissioners also serve as the Liquor Board, Central Lyon Vector Control District Board, Mason Valley Mosquito Abatement District Board, Walker River Weed Control District Board, Willow Creek General Improvement District Board, and the Silver Springs General Improvement District Board, and during this meeting may convene as any of those boards as indicated on this or a separately posted agenda. This meeting may break between 11:30 and 1:30 for lunch, but hopefully we don't go that long today. Roll call. Let the record show that Commissioner Jacobson, Keller, Gray, and Henderson are in chambers, and Commissioner Hockaday is on Zoom. Today's invocation will be given by Pastor John Poundstone of Joy Church. Good morning, John.
Good morning and thank you. Heavenly Father, you tell us that we can have your wisdom if we simply seek it. So that's what we ask this morning, is your presence and your wisdom. Father, your holy scriptures tell us that we are to maintain the spirit of unity through the bond of peace. And as we enter into these important decisions today, and as we enter into yet another season of transition, may we each within my hearing and here in the room be reminded that your scriptures also say that insofar as it is up to me, insofar as it's my part of it, and each one of us maintain peace with one another. Big important things to do. Thank you for the privilege of serving you. And I ask again your wisdom and your peace and your blessing on these gatherings today. In your holy name, amen.
Amen. Josh.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Poundstone. Public participation. No action will be taken on any item until it is properly agendized. It's anticipated that public participation will be held at this time, though it may be returned to at any time during the agenda. Citizens wishing to speak during public participation are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment after discussion of each agenda action item, but before the board takes any action. Afterwards, please print your name at the clerk's desk. So up here at the podium. Is there any public participation at this time in the chamber or online? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to review and adoption of the agenda. Anybody have any changes?
Okay, I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Dave, do you vote? All right. Let the record show it. The agenda passed 5-0. We're going to move on to our time certain 6 a.m. today.
6 a.m.
I mean, 6A. Time certain 6A. I'm still trying to catch up on sleep. Time certain 6A, 9 a.m. For possible action, approve a resolution to transfer the unused private activity bond cap to Nevada Rural Housing Authority. And we're going to calling one of my most favorite people in the whole world up.
Mr. Chair, thank you for that kind introduction that I've never had the pleasure to receive at a commissioners meeting. That's amazing. Commissioners and county administrators and staff, members of the public. My name is Diane Arvizo, and I am the Director of Homeownership Programs with the Nevada Rural Housing Authority. It's my pleasure to be here today to speak on behalf of an item that you have on the agenda for consideration, specifically requesting unused private activity bond cap that's been allocated to Lyon County to be transferred to Nevada Rural Housing Authority as a local government to continue supporting our Home at Last homeownership programs in rural Nevada. I'd like to provide you with an update on what our programs and Nevada Rural Housing Authority has been up to, both since the start of the program in 2006 and over this last fiscal year. I want to preface what I'm going to share with you that our homeownership program started in 2006. It's called Home at Last. You've probably seen some of the commercials or our advertising or on social. And Lyon County was there with us from day one. So historically, any unused cap that you have in Lyon County has been transferred to Nevada Rural Housing Authority. And I want to thank you for that longtime support that has helped so many home buyers exclusively in rural Nevada. Lyon County transferred in unused private activity bond cap a total of 17.8 million. Now that's not dollars for those who are not familiar with private activity bonds. It is the bonding authority, the ability to issue bonds. So 17.8 million you've transferred to us in unused bond cap. What have we done with that? In Lyon County alone, 1,732, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm froggy. Lyon County home buyers received 352.4 million in affordable mortgages, 9.3 million in down payment assistance. And through our mortgage credit certificate program, 7.1 million has been returned to them in estimated tax savings. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that more in a minute. This last fiscal year, of those total numbers, we helped 474 home buyers. Now, I'm just going to let you know during COVID, we had a record high volume in the program, which was awesome and unexpected. And we are now in a record low because of the inflation and economic factors in the market. So the swings from left to right and up and down and all over the place, we still continue to try and find where we can help people who are still wanting to pursue the dream of homeownership. And we do that through multiple ways. I'll share a little bit about that as well. So out of those 474 home buyers just in this last year, they got 3.6 million in down payment assistance and 147 million in affordable mortgages. When I talk about mortgages and assistance, I want to clarify that every time we provide down payment assistance to a borrower, they are also receiving an affordable 30-year first mortgage. So they're paired together. They get that first mortgage that helps ensure that they can finance the home with an FHA, VA, USDA, or conventional financing. And then we provide down payment assistance to go along with that. 15 years ago, or it's actually 17 years ago now, when we launched the Home at Last program, cumulatively, we've now helped over 10,400 home buyers, and where? Exclusively in rural Nevada. That's why the transfer of unused private activity bond cap in rural areas to Nevada Rural Housing can be kept in rural Nevada, is because that is our jurisdiction. Those are the only areas we serve. Any unused cap that is distributed to an entity like the counties or the cities, if it's not allocated to a specific project or another requester that would be here presenting, then it reverts back to the state by September 1st of the same year. And you just got it in like June, like a couple weeks ago. So there's a very narrow window. And so we pool all of the local transfers. That's what enables us to have one robust program. Collectively, we've helped provide 2.2 billion in affordable mortgages to those 10,400 home buyers, $63 million in down payment assistance, 36.7 million in estimated tax savings to the mortgage credit certificate program. What is this mortgage credit certificate program that I speak of? Oh my gosh. So the mortgage credit certificate is not a loan. It attaches to the mortgage that a home buyer gets, whether or not they're using our program. They can get a mortgage credit certificate if they meet the income qualifications and the purchase price is within a certain cap. Right now, it's about $349,000 in Lyon County. So if they qualify for the mortgage credit certificate program, and that one requires them to be a first-time home buyer or a qualified veteran is exempt from the first-time home buyer rule, which is 3 years. They get that MCC for the life of the loan, as long as they live in the home as their primary residence. But why is it so much value? That mortgage credit certificate returns 20% of the mortgage interest they pay on their mortgage back in a form of a dollar for dollar federal tax credit. A $375,000, and of course, that's probably higher than for here, but $375,000 mortgage at 5.5% interest would return $4,100 to the home buyer in just the first year. And that is about $341 in additional qualifying income. With the $349,000 limit in Lyon County and interest rates now approaching over 6%, they would get something equivalent to that. And they get that as additional qualifying income. So when they're applying for the loan with an MCC, that lender can use that to qualify them because that's real money that's returned to them. So it's an amazing program. And that is actually what we would likely do with the bond cap transfers to us this year. We have up to 3 years to file an election to use it for a single family program, which can be a mortgage revenue bond, providing a 30-year mortgage, or a mortgage tax credit program. Since 2009, we have been using it for mortgage credit certificates because you can see the value it provides to ensuring affordable home ownership. But we do have the option, just so you know, we can, if the timing is right with the markets, switch over to a mortgage revenue bond and commit to doing 30-year mortgages. So your transfer today, if approved, would continue our ability to offer these programs throughout rural Nevada. And I'm here to answer any questions that you have today after I, again, thank you for the continued support over all these years.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. What a wonderful presentation, Ms. Arvizo. I appreciate your time. Just a curiosity, who do realtors, businesses trying to recruit or keep employees? How does this word get out to people and the recruiting process, I guess, for possible first-time homeowners in this program? Where I just for curiosity.
Yeah, I appreciate your asking that, Commissioner Jacobson, and here's why. So as a local government agency, we are always challenged with getting the word out about programs that are available to help people, right? So it starts at the local level with your support. You're talking to people that you know. We talk to schools, we talk to businesses. We have a really robust social media platform because that captures a huge segment of what would be potential borrowers for our program. We meet with local businesses such as the mining companies who are trying to recruit and attract and retain employees for the long term. And we would even support a kind of a matching down payment assistance program with employers who wanted to really build an attractive package to bring people in. If they wanted to put in $5,000 for home ownership, we would match that. And so there's all kinds of ways we can, help promote the program and recruit, but it starts with all of you just knowing the words home at last. If you know someone who wants to buy a home, they don't have to be a first-time home buyer. At the very least, they should talk to me or talk to someone on my team because we are all about the affordability, whether or not that's through our program. So if they can get the best deal through a reputable local lender, because maybe they have 800 FICO and they don't really need assistance, then we can help point them in the direction to make sure that that process is good for them, whether they use the program or not.
And then just Chairman Gray, if I may, just to follow up on that, it seems like entry-level sheriffs and their families, school teachers, it seems like we have some Sheriff Honeywell, maybe Wayne Workman with the school district, others could really maybe help spread the word as well when they're recruiting and trying to retain the young professionals. So awesome program. And I thank you for your time here today.
I appreciate that. I will actually make it a point to follow up with them directly at your recommendation that we talk about, like we have distributed through like Boys and Girls Club and through schools, through the messaging, but they're very particular about making sure that there's nothing that's promoted as like, we're trying to back this. So it's a fine line. We're a local government agency and, we put all the money in these programs back into the programs, like it's revolving. But it's still, sometimes people raise an eyebrow like, oh, well, is this too good to be true? What is all this? And this doesn't use taxpayer dollars. So a lot of times people are like, well, am I funding this? And it's like, no, Our down payment assistance program is actually funded with revolving funds that we generate through the sale of mortgage-backed securities. So we take these awesome rural loans, which are very attractive to investors. They buy those mortgage-backed securities, and that replenishes our ability to continue the program. So we haven't used taxpayer dollars to fund the down payment assistance program ever. Now, the private activity bond cap, I think it's important to note, that comes from the US Treasury to every state in the country, and it's based on population. So those distributions are made every year around May or June. And then half of the distribution to Nevada is what is dispersed to the local counties and cities. So if there was, say, a multifamily housing developer that wanted to come in Lyon County and do a project, we would not come in and ask for your unused cap if they were planning to put that into their capital stack. We would like applaud that. It's like, yeah, use it. But if you're not using it, that's when we want to pull it. It's also important for people to understand it's not a line item on your budget because it's not money. It's just the ability to issue tax exempt bonds. So that's something I think when people really understand that, then they really like get behind it because they're happy that there's something like that that exists. So yes, please, if anyone in here knows of either an organization, whether it's county level, city level, or business level, that would benefit from having maybe some materials provided to them to reach their either current employees or prospective employees, let me know. We will be there in a heartbeat. I will give you an example. City of FERNLEY put some messaging in their water bills some number of years ago. And because they were such proponents of making sure their residents got this information. And I will tell you, Lyon County is our #1 served rural community.
I see that.
For obvious reasons. So yeah, it's been great. So I'm a little partial to Lyon County, having lived here, but nonetheless, this is where people want to live and can afford a home. And I hope it stays that way for a little while.
Anyways, Diane, as usual, it's great having you here. We've known each other a lot of years. So I heard the realtors. So I just want to say that, yes, the realtors are aware, and when we get our clients, a lot of times we just give them the phone number or we go with them. How long have we known each other now? Oh my God.
Back when I was with Northern Nevada Title. So
Yeah,
it's been a long
it's been a
time.
very long time. So, but yes, the realtors are aware, and when we're trying to get families in their homes, we definitely know who to call. So
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great job. You guys do awesome work. Yeah, I've been involved with you guys for a number of years and really appreciate what you do to help people get on the road to home ownership. So appreciate
Thank
what you
you.
guys do.
Thank you.
And tell Mr. Brewer he can come too. He's a
I actually arm wrestle him. I don't let them come into Lyon County.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you. When we sit around and make our plans, I'm like, I do Lyon County, I do Garrison. He did get FERNLEY this year, but this is near and dear to my heart. So you're gonna be stuck with me.
And he knows if he walked through the door and you weren't with him, he would just have to come back another time with you.
Actually, he would sit kindly and he would be supportive. So he knows that if he's in the same room with me, he's probably not going to be speaking. But I will also mention, because you reminded me, Commissioner Henderson, that our Board of Commissioners that oversees Nevada Rural Housing Authority is appointed by both the Nevada League of Cities and Nevada Association of Counties. We have 2 appointed by each, and then we have a joint one that is a representative of our Section 8 program that sits on our board.
Commissioner Hockaday. Okay, no comments. For those of you, Dave, his voice he's been having issues with his voice, so he may or may not chime in today. I just want to say real quick, I mean, I think we go back 12 years now, something like that. And
Wow.
her son, you guys were, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were in like the Wellington, Smith Valley area and in Yerington, and got appointed to the Service Academy and had worked with, you guys on that. And it's been a long time to watch her. He is
He is a captain, medevac pilot in the Army in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. So,
Thank
and then her daughter, God bless her, went in the Air Force. One of them was smart.
Oh.
I'm Air Force. There you go. Well, Air Force. There you go.
And enlisted, right?
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. And no, for those you don't know, I got a daughter in the Navy and a daughter in the Army, and I was Air Force, so I really don't have any room to talk. But we often get beat up. Yeah. Oh, we often we often get beat up, for not helping out with affordable housing and things like that. And, government has a very limited role, but this is one of the things that we do every year to try and help out and ease the burden. It's indirect, but it has a direct impact. And so when you're out there and you're thinking about beating us up about, providing affordable housing, that's not really government's job, but we can help with other agencies that do help people get into, especially home ownership. So, and one thing I would recommend, going back to like what Commissioner Jacobson said, is maybe distribute materials to the post-academy graduations. Because like our highway patrol guys found out that they only take home about $1,700 a month when they start. And it's very hard for them to even save to get into a house, much less be able to find an apartment that they can rent for that amount these days. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So if you have a nice soft introduction for me on a point of contact, that is another way that you can help support us, because, walking in cold, sometimes you have to do the whole, get to know you. And so an introduction from anyone in this room to someone that that might be valuable, please call me.
Will do. Do we need to read the resolution in, Josh? Sure. Can we just take action? Okay. So we are looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve resolution to transfer unused private activity bond cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion amongst the board? Dave, you got anything? Thumb down if you don't want to say anything. Okay, there you go. Any public comment? Not seeing anybody in chambers or online. We'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And let the record show the resolution passed unanimously. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you very much.
And I think we got you out of here in time for your meeting.
You did.
Mr. Chair, there's a big glare coming from that side of the room. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, it's Rob.
Oh,
What was that?
You're bright.
The Carols are bright.
glad you two are separated today. All righty, going on to item 6B, not 6 a.m., but times, no, it's not 9:30 yet, is it? No, we got 9 minutes. You guys want to take a break and you guys want to keep going? All right, we will move on to item number 7, presentation of awards and or recognition of accomplishments. We have nothing. Commissioner, County Managers reports. We will start online with Commissioner Hockaday. You're muted, still boss.
Yeah, I'm really not going to say much today. I'll catch up next time.
Okay. Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. Zoomed in on the city FERNLEY council meeting last night. Entertaining as usual. Got a lot of good things done. I did some personal notes. Attended my niece's wedding. My daughter graduated. I voted. So big things happening there. Also like to thank, and I know Mr. Homestead is on this, but maybe Shayla too. The Lyon County Facilities Department finishing up the senior patio projects. $70,000 worth of 100% grant funded. What a great flyer. I'm just going to pass this around and everybody can take a look at that. I don't know if they have access, but thank you very much. That's awesome. 100% grant funded is music to our ears. And then finally, I see Neil McIntyre's here, might possibly be the next city mayor when election results are final, but congratulations, Mr. McIntyre. And that's all I have, Chairman Gray.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Keller.
Yeah, it's been busy. You see, my granddaughter graduated, so I think we've had a lot of graduations going on. Of course, we had an election, so here come January, I'm going to step down, but you're still going to have a Commissioner Keller, so he's sitting in the front row. I'm going to go on to other things. I'm sure the good Lord's got plans for me. So anyways, when I get more sleep, by the next meeting, I'll talk more.
There we go. Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few items this morning. I attended the Mountain House Advisory Board meeting on June 7th. They were very pleased that we were able to maintain some ARPA funding for them to at least start the process of getting them a community building or a building for their community to have events in. One thing I do want to note that they are at the, I believe at the fire station out there, they are having a community open house on July 16th. So everyone is invited to attend that. Should be a good time, actually. I can't wait for a party at Mountain House. Gotta be a good time, right? I attended the Western Interstate Region and the Public Lands Committee for National Association of Counties on June 6th. A couple of the items that were some of the legislative updates that were up there. There's going to be a webinar on secure rural school fundings the second week of July. I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And then, of course, the environmental concerns with some of the new proposed regulations coming out of the administration are of concern and being watched by both of those committees, and looking forward to attending the committee in person next month in July in Colorado. I attended the Campo meeting on June 8th and formally requested an item on a future Campo agenda for a presentation from NDOT regarding both the recently completed Highway 50 study and also accelerated actions regarding our traffic safety issues out there. So that will be on the Campo agenda. Most of the problems that we have in Lyon County on Highway 50 are within Campo territory. So we'll have another voice to add to hopefully get the state's attention to get something done on Highway 50 sooner rather than later. And I also attended the SLUPAC meeting via Zoom. And some of the things they did, they signed a letter of support for NEAP funding, which is Nevada Economic Assessment Project, which is through UNR. Want to make sure that keeps funding. And we had a very good presentation on lithium exploration. And if anybody's interested, I can give you a link to look at the presentation that was made there. Lithium is, as you know, a vital element for electric car vehicles, and Nevada is well positioned to supply lithium as long as the government doesn't take all the lithium areas that have lithium out of the multi-use area and exclude them. So it's a challenge. So other than that, Mr. Chair, that's really all I have.
Thank you. No, actually, and thank you for getting Campo involved on that. And the more pressure we can put on them, the greater. Just a couple of quick issues. I have asked for, since this board has never been presented a presentation by HUD Bay, I've asked them, we've got it tentatively scheduled right now for the second meeting in July, but that may be an issue because we've got folks going to Colorado, so we may need to reschedule that one. But we constantly get barraged with comments and questions and concerns about what HUD Bay wants to do and the lands bill and how they play into it. But my pat answer is, I don't know. I haven't seen their presentation. I have no idea what they want to do out there at all. They've never reached out to us as a board. I know they've done some community presentations, but personally, I wasn't able to make it down for that. But that could be a huge impact to our community of Lyon County. And I think it would be imperative for us to know more about what's going on, at least from their standpoint. So we will have more on that to follow. With the winds that are picking up, and I talked to Josh about this over the weekend. I mean, not Josh, but Jeff over the weekend. We really need to work with our contractors who are doing work, at least on behalf of the county on Dayton Valley Road, to keep that dust and everything watered down. There were some real problems. They had whiteout conditions on Dayton Valley Road. And so if we can just make sure that somebody coordinates with our contractors to let them know that's got to be watered down even on the weekends, just for safety's sake. I mean, not even for air quality, just for safety, be really important. The other thing is they've installed concrete boxes out there, I guess, for the sewage lines going in. And I've gotten actually several complaints that people are not used to having them there, and somebody may wind up hitting them on a motorcycle or an off-road vehicle. So I don't know if there's anything we need to do to mark those, but it's been raised as a safety concern and might be something we worth actually the safety guy, it might be something we should take a look at to mark them or something. And that's all I've got. Now it's 9:30 and we will go to our 9:30 time certain. Possible action, acceptance of renewal proposal from Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool and approved payment from fiscal year 2022 to 2023 funds. And that was requested by Mr. Carlson. And I am sure that you are going to do the presentation, correct?
Alan calls, sir.
Oh, there we go.
Good morning. Move this down a little bit. My name is Kayla Woods for the record, and I am with A&H Insurance. And together with Brad Pierce, we are your agents that represent you to the Pool Pact. And I have to say, it's great to be back here this year. Last year was my first renewal presentation with working with this program. And I have to say that in the last year, I have asked a ton of questions. I've done a lot of listening. I've learned a lot. So I'm really excited to be back here speaking this year about the renewal and what we have going on. So again, Kayla Woods, Brad Pierce with A&H Insurance. A&H Insurance has been doing business in the state of Nevada since 1957, and we are a full service brokerage. So we serve public entities as one of the industries we serve, but we also work with several business owners throughout the state in all different sectors. And we are pleased to have been working with the Pool Pact since 1987. So the Pool Pact was formed to serve our public entities at a time when getting insurance for public entities was very expensive and very hard. So Nevada counties came together, cities, and formed the Pool Pact, which is a member-owned program. And it's actually far more than just insurance. It's a risk management program. And the idea is the power of the pool, that if all the public entities in Nevada come together and utilize these risk management loss control programs and maintain as safe an environment as we can go to market and renegotiate rates at a lower price because we're utilizing all of these loss control services. Last August, I was actually took on a role as our municipality program manager, which has been very exciting. And some of the things I'm doing within that role is looking to innovate and elevate our service standards and how we serve our public entity partners. So between Brad and I, we serve about 35 public entities in the state of Nevada, and A&H as a whole serves about 45. So we've been doing this for quite some time, and we're proud of the service that we've been able to give. You'll see a large proposal on your desk that has lots of information in it. I'm going to go over it at a very high level, but of course, we're here to answer any questions or concerns that you have about that proposal. One of the things that you will see in the proposal is our timeline of service. And the intention with our timeline of service is really to bring to the forefront some of the things we've been doing in the background and some new things we want to do moving forward. And this timeline of service is not set in stone. It's meant to be a very flexible document that we work together with our public entity partners to design each year so that we can outline the ways that in which we can best serve our public entity partners for the 12-month period moving forward. So some of the things that you'll see on that timeline of service is an MVP review, which is a new review that we're partnering with the Pool Pact on. It's a member valuation and performance review. And in this review, the Pool Pact does an in-depth analysis of any claims that the entity has had over the last several years, as well as any trends in claims that we're seeing. And then they also do an analysis of the utilization of the value-added services of the Pool Pact. So also in the packet, you'll see, and I'm sure Alan will talk about this more as well, but you'll see the list of all those value-added, those loss control, the risk management, extra value-added services that the Pool Pact does. So they're going to take a look at what you've used, how you've used it, and then look at the trends of the loss history and make recommendations of how we can utilize those services best in the year moving forward. And that's the flexible part of this service timeline, is we want to take those recommendations, put them into the service timeline, and figure out how we're going to actually achieve these initiatives for the 12 months moving forward. Some other items that you'll see on that timeline of service is our quarterly loss reviews. So each quarter we get the loss history and we work with Josh. Josh is wonderful on hopefully a more frequent basis to stay up to date on claims and what's happening so that we can monitor those. But we do like to review those and have an interactive conversation about what's going on. Anytime, the longer the claim is on the books opened, the more money that's going to be paid out. So it's really important that we partner together, with Josh, with us, and with the Pool Pact to make sure that we're closing out those claims as fast as possible and that they're being managed and handled appropriately. And then finally, this year, we want to do a much more interactive process with our renewal application. So in December, those renewal applications come out from the Pool Pact, and we basically take a survey of all the assets, the exposures, what's going on in the county. And that is what the Pool Pact takes out to market to negotiate the reinsurance in February and March. And we really want to do a deep dive this year, making sure that those applications are accurately reflecting the assets and exposures of the county. I want to talk a little bit about the timeline of the Pool Pact and how it happens. So I've talked about what we want to do for you throughout the year. Now, those applications come out in December, we complete them, they go back to the Pool Pact, and the Pool Pact negotiates the coverages on your behalf. So if you think of the Pool Pact as like a quilt, the bottom layers of the quilt are what we call captive insurance companies. They're insurance companies that are owned and created by the Pool Pact that do nothing but insure public entities. After that, they have to go out to the standard market to renegotiate, the reinsurance for the coverage layers that go below that bottom layer of coverage. And this is a very high level version. What they do is much more complex, but it's important because when those applications are completed and they go out to those markets, we want to make sure we have accurate information, because those reinsurers look at our loss history, they use actuaries, they look at our exposures, and then they give us the rates for the upcoming year. And at the end of April, we have the annual board meeting for the Pool Pact, which Josh attends, of course, and we attend as well. And in that board meeting, they give us a summary of what those negotiations look like, what does inflation look like, what is going on with our economy, what trends have they been seeing in claims over the last year. And we do attend that meeting on the behalf of the county. So in that meeting this year, of course, everything is getting a bit more expensive this year with inflation and the Ukraine-Russia what's going on. And so what we're seeing overall is about a 12% increase for the Pool Pact. Now, that is not a blanket increase, meaning every single member and entity gets a 12% increase. What that means is that they then look at each member's unique exposures and loss history to determine what each member's increase will be. So some members have an increase as high as 25%, some members have an increase as low as 2%. It just depends on each individual entity. So for Lyon County, this year, we are looking at just above a 3% increase, which is wonderful. I feel really happy about that. As far as the exposures go, payroll went down just a little bit, 2% down. Your total insured values, which is all the stuff, it's all the property, the vehicles, the buildings, the assets, went up about 3%. So kind of seeing that in line with the overall increase. Your auto count went down about 9%. Employees went up about 7%. And your EMT count went up about 3%. So some of that increase is due to inflation, but also a lot of it is due to just an increased exposure as well. I want to stop there. Are there any questions on the information I've just given?
Just for curiosity, thank you, Chairman Gray. Just for curiosity, how do we stack up against some of the other counties as far as percent
increases? So you guys are definitely on the lowest low end of percent increases this year. Now, with that 12% being like the blanket due to inflation, and I'll let him talk in just a minute. With the blanket 12% just being due to inflation, we're far below that, and your increase is primarily because of the exposures. And if you had anything.
So yesterday, I presented at Churchill County, 16%. I presented at Elko County, 18%. So
See, there you
this,
have it.
this is
They
this
don't
is
have
the
a job
easiest one.
fully.
This is the
Andrew,
easiest
Jay.
renewal that I'm going to be at, 3%. So great question.
What, if you don't mind me asking real quick, what was driving theirs? Did they have significant losses or?
So what happened in Churchill County, they added $15 million of total insured values. Their employee count went up and they had some adverse claims.
Okay.
So those were, they hit the trifecta. I mean, unfortunately, on the bad way. They built, although they built some nice facilities,
Yes.
You go out and buy a brand new car, and then you have to go get it insured. It costs more money. You put together the 3-seat Raptors where they had the Bucky Bronx last night. Hope somebody attended. Awesome event to support the community. That's new insured value, just like a new home, you gotta have insurance for. So that was a big increase that phone company had on claims was what drove Elkville and some insured values.
Yeah, as far as claims, Lyon County had a very impressive year last year. We didn't see any large claims on the pool side. On the PAC side, which is the workers' compensation. So pool is liability and property, PACT is workers' compensation. So on the PAC side, we have had some more significant claims over the past few years, but the pool PAC does a phenomenal job of smoothing what that looks like. So at a high level, there's an experience modification, which is basically based on the entity's claims history when it comes to workers' compensation. So every business kind of starts at a 1. A 1 is no surcharges, no credits, you're just at a 1. And over time, as you build history, you can go above a 1 or below a 1. And below a 1 means you're having really good claims history. Above a 1 means there's been some claims going on. And so we did see somewhat of an increase in your experience modification this past year. The experience modification takes into account the past 5 years of loss history, but they throw out the most recent year, which is called the greenest year, because those claims are more likely to develop. Maybe they close out, maybe they cost way more money. So we look at those 4 years. And in those 4 years, any claim over $100,000 is capped at $100,000. And each year, the pool PAC does not allow that experience modification to increase more than 0.15 or 15%. So you could not go from a 1 to a 1.23. You could only go from a 1 to a 1.15. And that's the mechanism.
If I could,
Mhm.
don't want to cut you short with the PAC side, it isn't part of the agenda item. So
Okay. Oh, I apologize. Okay. Sorry about
And
that.
If I can interrupt, also, you asked for questions earlier, and I had one on Mr. Jacobson, but I didn't know if any of the other commissioners had any.
I'm good for now.
I'm good for now.
Okay.
It looks like Dave's good. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We're honored to represent the pool pact. We're honored to serve your county, and we're just here to partner and be a part of your team.
If I could, please. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Kayla and Brad. Very thorough presentation, very impressed, with what happens. Sometimes what members forget is you guys own us. We're a member services consortium. Okay, the chairman of the board, the chairman of the pool is Mr. Josh Holder. Josh serves on many committees. Eric serves on the HR oversight committee. Lyon County's taken a leadership role for many, many years, and that we greatly appreciate. Speaking of leadership, serving the residents of Lyon County, your participation in the Absorb e-learning, and I believe Eric is the one who spearheads that, your HR director. Yeah, 444 active users. They've completed 2,745 courses from July 1 to the 1st of May. So they may break 3,000 courses. So you're making sure that your employees are trained in the categories. You guys can do customized courses. You got gold standard. Your level of participation there is excellent. One of the other things is cybersecurity. We have a product that we pay for, we provide for you guys, no before. And you guys have 359 users. You've tested 98.9% of your users have been tested in your hit rate, okay, which is 5.3%. Okay. A little high. We actually had one entity that's less than 1%. And the last time you guys did a phishing test was actually last June. So, it's probably time to get a couple more of those tests going. But you guys have been very proactive. We've done a jail assessment for you guys. We just had to follow up with it on March of 2022. You guys participate in roll call training, sheriffs and chiefs meetings, and we're rolling out through Nevada Peer Network support some mental health training for police and law enforcement and firefighters because of the nature of their work. It's a program that we're providing services to help those employees. HR support, we have an HR team that helps support your team, and you guys take advantage of that. And it's exciting that you're partnering with A&H and looking at additional programs. So that's all I have. I appreciate your membership. Thank you. And Josh, appreciate your leadership.
So again, can you please repeat your name? Our recorder just.
Yeah, Alan Kalt, K-A-L-T.
Thank you.
I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I'll write it down.
There you go. Any further questions, comments, concerns, guys?
Again, as was stated, I'm Brad Pierce, for the record. I work with Caleb. Although I'm teasing, last year I was criticized by Commissioner Keller for not giving Kayla airtime. So I'm taking certainly a back seat today.
Good job.
Darn, he remembered that.
What kind of chewing did you give?
Ooh, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Come on, Turbo.
Just merely reiterate that A&H Insurance is here to basically serve, work on your behalf in the greatest fashion that we can. The only other comment I would make is that Mr. Foley here makes it very difficult for us to really work your program, be part of your program to its fullest extent, because he and the staff do such a superlative job. And you should certainly know that. I think you probably do. But with that, I will bow out here.
Alrighty, you guys have anything else for us? Anybody in chambers? Okay, looks like we are looking for a motion.
Chairman Gray,
Sure.
I'll make a motion to accept the renewal proposal from the Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool and approval for payment for the fiscal year 2022, 2023 funds.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any chance we can just make that for 3 years? Just wondering. Any comments from the board?
Thank you, Alan, Brad, and especially Kayla. Very impressive presentation. You obviously know Lyon County very well. Anyone that speaks that long with that many numbers, figures, we all know figures don't lie, but liars sure can figure. But you know Lyon County as well. And then with that, I also want to thank our department heads for the training, hiring exceptional people to have a 3% just increase as low as anyone is a credit to our county staff. And no one's better than Josh for sure. So thank you.
Any further board comments or
Oh, I
questions?
just want to make a comment from last year. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
She made up for it this year.
Good job. You did awesome.
Okay, any public comment before we take action? Okay, not seeing any, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let the record show it passed, on 60 passed with a unanimous vote. Thank you, guys. See you next year. Okay, going on to item number 9. Actually, no, I need to go back here. I'm sorry. County managers reports. Did you have anything on behalf of Jeff? Okay, good.
I report on the county manager. He's on his way to Dublin, Ireland.
There you go.
Yeah, he's probably sitting with a nice tall one on a plane somewhere over the Atlantic right now. Alrighty, any elected officials reports? I saw the DA here earlier.
Nothing today.
Okay. He's the only one. Sheriff, are you online? Did you have anything? I see a fighter and I see a shadow. It says Frank Honeywell, but
This is funny. Well,
It does.
it does say funny well. Sheriff, are you there?
Are you phonetically challenged?
how come phonetics isn't spelled the way it sounds?
Stop. All right. Okay, it doesn't look like sheriff has anything. So we're gonna go on to appointed officials reports. There you go, Mr. Haskins.
Good morning, Andrew Haskin, Lyon County Community Development Director. I just wanted to point out that I have included community development report that covers April and May this month. So I had missed a month, so I'm making up for it. So it's extra long this month, but it does have numbers and reports for everything for the 2 months. So including a couple of community development reports or code enforcement reports in there. So I just wanted to point it out.
Thank you. Come on up.
Doug Homestead, Facility Director. I gave a report out on the senior center, which was a great project. I think the patio project. And it's really neat that Sheila got all that money and not one penny came out of the county's money. So we finished that. We did there's another picture in there of the library, Silver Springs Library parking lot. We still have to do the grading of it, but we got that in. So handicap available now there. We got an estimate on fixing the vandalism at the Mark Twain ballpark. It was almost $7,000 worth of damage. It meant the dividers and everything, broke the porcelain toilets off the wall, and yeah. So,
Wait, pool practice left.
yeah, I didn't want to say that while they were here.
Do we have the ability to actually put a reward out there? I mean, maybe one of those kids will turn in the other kids or something.
That came up today. My supervisor over in Dayton, Judge, brought it up and asked, he says, is there any way that we could offer, the county could offer a fund, like, $500 for tips or whatever for that. And I was going to talk to Josh about it later on and see if there's something that we could do and have a tip line maybe. We did put in a security camera. It's a standalone camera that reports to the cloud.
Has it been destroyed yet?
No, we put it to where they couldn't reach it, hopefully. But, and we've purchased a few of them. We're gonna try that out at the fairgrounds if we can't get that system working that we got for that area too. But it just continues to be a problem with vandalism. People don't respect anything anymore, it seems like. So
Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but you might be able to help out in that as well. Also with advice or maybe funds to support something like that. But I mean, kids will dime each other out for $500.
yeah, exactly. That's what we
So,
said. Yeah.
yeah. So and if you need, I'd be willing to kick in some money too, if it has to be through private funds, but that makes me gut sick when they, in the rec parks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Any questions you have of me?
So I did have one question, getting the emails. And so I know Mark Twain, I know the fairgrounds, and there was several. So how many actual facilities recently have we had vandalized in one manner or another?
Mainly just Mark Twain, the fairgrounds, and the Mason Town Hall.
Okay, so those are the three.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mason Town Hall was mainly spray painted, spray painted the wall of the building and put some nice pictures of private parts painted on the sidewalks and stuff. And so we got all that cleaned up and stuff.
Well, I know we've had some private properties, commercial property stuff that was also attacked.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just seems to be widespread right now.
The
Okay.
board. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Homestead. Any other appointed officials? All righty, moving on to advisory board reports. Anybody for an advisory board? Mr. Keller.
We had the Parks Board, Scott Keller for the record. At the Parks Board, we had the topics that you were talking about, how we can get the Sheriff's Department combined with the Parks Department. So that's where that started driving. I've stepped down as the chair as the Silver Springs Advisory Board, and Bridget Perez is now running the board there. And Gina Lee's taking over for the Central Lyon County Parks. She's the vice chair. So I'm staying on as the liaison for them. But if you have any, they're getting their feet wet and getting into it. So if you have anything with those boards, contact them. They're pretty much running the show.
Thank you, Commissioner-elect.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on to the consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of items 12 through 15F. Any changes to that? Okay, looking for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items 12A through 15F.
Change that, Commissioner Cover. I'm sorry.
I know I was just gonna make a motion, but
Okay.
Sorry.
that was okay.
You can do the second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Well, I was gonna
second.
second, and he asked me a question. I got me, lost my. train of
Yeah,
thought.
well, no, I just want to make sure you didn't have a change
we're
or any
good.
questions. Okay, do we have any questions, comments, or concerns on the consent agenda? Any from the public? Seeing none online or for Commissioner Hockaday, call for the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, looks like we got everybody. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Just for that? No.
Okay.
No, well, yeah, actually, want to take 5 minutes? Okay, let's do it.
Whenever.
Let's take 5 or so. And some glue.
Oh, look, we learned how to share. Didn't we?
Oh, you want that sign?
Hey, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back? All right. All righty, we're going to call this meeting back to order and move on to item 16A. Possible action, determine if the Board of County Commissioners should continue moving the second meeting of the month around the county. And that has been requested by Commissioner Henderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, about a year, I don't remember exactly when we started, it's about a year ago or so, we we decided we were going to move the second meeting around the county, and I think that was a good idea. Ow, sorry, got a leg that's giving me trouble.
Kenny was kicking you or
No.
something. What's going on?
Not that the thought hasn't crossed my mind, but not today.
That was the wrong side. Anyway.
Voodoo doll does work.
So it's you doing it.
Anyway, so we've been doing it for over a year now, and I figured it was time for us just to take a look and see if it makes sense. You know, I'm more than willing to continue doing it, but are we wasting money doing it? Because, you know, everybody in this room here with either is a county employee or has business before the board, with the exception of Mr. Wright, who is at every meeting, no matter what. You know, it does cost us money to do that. We have facilities that have to set up. We have IT that has to set up. So I just figured it was time for us to talk and see if we still want to continue to do that. You know, because I don't think we're getting the participation that we anticipated when we decided to do it. And with the technology that we have with Zoom, you know, people can watch our meetings no matter where we are. So I just thought I'd bring it back to the board just for discussion to see if we want to continue to do this or if we want to just move back to where all our meetings are in Yerington and people that don't want to go to Yerington can Zoom in.
Mr. Chair, if I could, sorry to let her into the back. So Josh Ford, Lyon County Council for the record. I know we've had a lot of discussion internally as staff on this as well. We are not one of the counties that has a significant amount of staff. As an example, the IT department, we have a total of 3 people in the IT department. If you go to our surrounding counties, our size, the majority of them have anywhere from 10 to 15 people for the IT department. And so pulling them off of what they're taking care of day to day does impact things. We do support the board and want to take care of what the board's wishes are, but there are consequences to daily users of the county at that point. And I also have heard of citizens that show up to the commissioner chambers in Yerington when we're in one of the other locations because they weren't aware, didn't read the agenda closely enough. It gets moved around on a regular basis. And so there are some things just to be aware of. And you do have the capability, which is wonderful, for Zoom to allow pretty much anyone from any community. And in addition, we in Dayton opened up the Dayton utilities at times so that they could actually go there and meet even though the board is in Yerington. So there are a number of things technology can do for you that make it easier than moving around the county.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, everybody knows that I was actually against moving it around. And it wasn't because I didn't want to go out to the communities. I do. But moving staff every time we move the meetings around and the extra hours that you guys put in to do this, I just never felt made sense, especially after COVID. You know, we ended up with Zoom. And I'm looking at that board right now. I mean, we got more people on Zoom than we have in this room. And so I'm good either way, but financially and staff stress and having everything that you need to have each time you move the meeting, I just think it's best to have it in the commission chambers, unless there's some like, hey, when we had something special going on in Dayton or something special going on in Silver Springs, if it's a special meeting, because we have to address an issue in that community, we should be in that community. And we've done that in the past, and I think we should continue that practice. But yeah, I'm one to say we should bring it back home, I mean, we have a commission chambers for a reason. And we do have Zoom, which is available. And I'm not seeing at Silver Springs, for example, I mean, I heard for years, we want our meetings in Silver Springs, come to Silver Springs. And then we go to Silver Springs and other than Mr. Wright, it's staff. We're talking to staff. What was that? Anyways, so again, I'll shut up, but yeah, I just think it makes more sense financially and stress on the employees, everybody, to just have our meetings in Yarrington unless there's a special circumstance.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. I was for moving it around, and I see one Fernley resident here today, Mr. McIntyre. Now, with that said, I know that our agenda doesn't really have a lot necessarily dealing with Fernley in particular, and I think we could address that with what Commissioner Keller mentioned. If something was pressing and we needed to be in that community, we could obviously host a meeting there. But I counted 8 county employees minimum, and I may have missed some, but it's $6 a gallon. Take them away from their day when we've got a chamber set up. I think money ahead. I think we need to practice what we preach on being fiscally responsible. And while I appreciate being here today, because I'm a hop, skip, and a jump from my house, it isn't about me. It's about the county and handling county business. So I can definitely see where right now may not be the best time to be moving around the county. And I think our crowd participation supports that as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I've got here, Dave Hockaday had sent in a message, said we should meet in the local area whenever there is something important to that community. And I think that was, an echo basically of the other commissioners. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could, two comments. One, I certainly agree that we should have meetings in the communities that have an important issue. And we have done that in the past, and we're doing that in the future. I mean, we have a meeting scheduled later this month out in Dayton to talk about possible locations for the second bridge and some other issues out in Dayton. So we do have the ability to move, to be responsive to areas in a particular geographic area. And I'm all for that. Second point I want to make is we do have limited staff. So we have, I mean, you've got 3 guys basically on facilities.
Look, I've got 18.
Okay. Right.
I've
But
got 3 supervisors.
but his workers are busy working. So who comes and sets up the chairs? We have a department head coming to set the chairs up for us. That's just not a good use of our resources. I don't think so. That's all I'm going to say on this. I'd be happy to make a motion if you're ready to hear one.
Whatever. Not yet, no.
Well, in that case, Mr. Chair, I move that we discontinue moving the second meeting of the month around the county and have all the meetings in Yarrington except special meetings as required due to specific events.
Second.
Okay. Any board comments on that? Dave, you got anything else? Okay. All right, now we'll open it up for public comment.
I am Neil McIntyre, and I'm on Lyon County School Board of Trustees. And I know being on our board, we do travel to each site at least 2 times a year, sometimes 3 to different areas because we do represent all of Lyon County. But we don't, as a school board, we don't have a particular boardroom. We do in Yarrington, but I think it's basically a meeting set up for the superintendent and his staff. But I do like what you guys are talking about as far as having your meetings in Yerington, unless there's a special issue that comes up in a particular area that you do go to that area and present in that area. So I want to thank you for that, Commissioner Henderson. I think it's a great idea that that's how you guys approach it. Thank you.
I'm Russ Wright. I live in Dayton. I was an advocate of this kind of rotating the meetings. I still am. The idea of taking the government of the people to the people. I don't think you're going to find the same kind of attendance by Zoom as you've had, even the folks that are in Dayton today, thanks to Mr. Burketta setting up the water board. There's been more people attend by Zoom and or at the Dayton meeting. We sort of bribed you to Dayton because we fed you the first time. Like, maybe you're not coming anymore because we haven't fed you since then. There is a perception with those of us that are on this side of the dais that, and I don't mean to hit any of you in a sensitive spot, but there is a perception that you people are out of touch with those of us out here. This is a good example. There was a motion and a second, and I dare say the board has made up its mind as to the vote, and then you asked for public comment. You did that with the allocation of the ARPA funds. You proselytized over that list for 4 hours, arriving at a conclusion that was a consensus of all of you, and made a motion to accept that resolution. Then you open it to public comment and discover there were some other needs, there were some other solutions. So this is no different. You've made up your mind. Now it's time to ask the public what they think. I think you should continue to do this. I don't think it probably costs that much. Josh can tell you to the penny how much it would cost. It costs something to set up the utility district office, whether we're there or not. But I, for one, would encourage you to continue doing it.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Yes.
Who said yes?
David Ray,
Okay.
Mason Valley Advisory Board Chairman.
There we go.
I think the situation as suggested to move it when it's needed out of Yerington is a good idea, but they should be at the county seat. There is need for it there because of staff and costs, a lot of other things going on as well. By all means, yes, if there's something like Dayton needs something, yes, move it to Dayton, as you're doing now, whatever. But I'm all in favor of going back to Yerington as much as possible. It's 5 commissioners traveling versus a whole bunch of other people and staff traveling. And it all stacks up one way or the other. Let's stack it up the right way and make it work right. And basically about me, I have to either Zoom or attend the meetings because part of the rules and regulations for Citizens Advisory Board says at least one member, preferably the chairman, attends the county meetings every twice a month. So that's the reason I'm there, to heckle and harass and be there. So I'm all for taking it back to Yerington, except for special situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Any further public comment? Anything else from the board? Okay, I've saved my comments for last. I'm gonna go off the reservation here. I think you guys all made some good
I
points.
promised to pick you if you did that.
Well, this is, I'm gonna exercise my time here real quick. I'm not gonna wax eloquently, but I have always been, since day one, getting on the board, wanted to move the meetings around and actually wanted to move them to late afternoons, early evenings. Fought that one long and hard and kept getting beaten down. And whether people show up to the meeting in person or not, it's still an option for them. I do think we need to take, move this board around to the communities. It's been well received. It's one of the, even though people, really aren't here. And Neil, I don't know if you'd be here or not if you weren't running for office, but people have liked the idea that we are coming into the communities and seeing what's going on. I've heard comments that, hey, you guys could see what's going on Dayton Valley Road, now Highway 50. Because, a lot of times we don't always get out to the communities. So I'm gonna go off the reservation with this, and I know it's a little bit of cost, and I know it's a little bit of inconvenience for staff. And if it means anything, I'd be happy to help set up, show up early and help set up also. But I think we need to, I personally think we need to continue to be back out in the communities that we serve. That's all I have. Any, sir?
If I could, I just want to clarify on the motion. Is it effective?
2028.
Is it effective immediately? Is it effective in January? What is the time?
I was not the motion maker, but we can take it back to the motion maker and see if he wants to amend it in a second.
I would say effective immediately.
Second stage.
Okay. All right, we will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Dave, were you and I? Okay. And I will be the dissenting vote on that one. Okay, that motion passes 4-1. Okay, moving on to item 17, possible action, approve the annual resolution of the Lyon County Board of Commissioners to designate the number of cents on each $100 of property tax levied for each fund and authorize the levy of the tax required for fiscal year 2022-2023. Mr. Foley.
Josh Fuller, Lyon County Council. For the record, this is the summary of tax rates for every tax industry in the county. So it reflects what they put in the final budget. Lyon County did not increase the tax rate. We moved some around between the funds, but it's the exact same tax rate. So it's just a formality that we're required by statute to do. And then the Nevada Tax Commission will take action on June 24th.
Any board comment? Mr. Higginson.
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion if so ready. Chairman Gray, I make a motion to approve the annual resolution of the Lyon County Board of Commissioners to designate the number of cents on each $100 on property tax levied for each fund and authorize the levy of the tax required for the fiscal year 2022-2023 as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns from the board? I just want to say, Josh answered my question. This board's not taking any action to increase tax rates or increase government revenues from our standpoint. So I think that's a good thing. We're operating within our revenues, and I think we need to keep doing that. So thank you. We will open it up to public comment now. Is there anybody online or in the chambers that would like to make a comment? All righty, seeing no comment, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion before us signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Community development, item 18A. Possible action, propose an ordinance to amend Lyon County Code Title 15, Chapter 15.320, Section 3, Table 15.320-1, Chapter 15.320, Section 3, Table 15.320.
Bless you.
Dash 2, thank you. And chapter 15.335.03, section WW, require conditional use permit for self-storage, RV storage uses in commercial zoning districts, and change the performance of standards for self-storage, RV uses, and other matters pertaining thereto.
All right, good morning, Andrew Haskin, Lyon County Community Development Director for the record. Had a little bit of time to get this one put back together since our last meeting. You might remember the board had provided some comments and direction on the previous draft of this ordinance. So we went back and did some additional research. We were asked to take a look at what the city of Fernley was doing, what Carson City was doing, and also to remove the 1,000-foot section out of this, out of the previous version. So with that, Josh, I can do it. Let's see here. I'm just going to move this up into the corner so I can see it. So we, I took a look at both the city of Fernley and Carson City and what they due for self-storage and for screening requirements. And so these sections here pretty much come directly out of FERNLEY's code. Number 2 there was something that that actually we had added that we didn't talk about, but all storage buildings shall be permanent structures built on site or assembled. That was yes.
So I gotta ask about that one. Definition of assembly, does that include bringing, the semi-storage containers out and connecting them together?
No, that was what I'm trying to avoid. So
Okay.
they would still have to, I don't,
Okay.
that actually, so that when I saw that in their code, I was like, oh, you know what? That's a good point, because right now there's really nothing to prohibit.
Oh.
So, so that is the purpose for number 2 there. Number 3 says the perimeter of the facility shall be screened by a solid masonry wall in the community, commercial, neighborhood, commercial, regional, commercial mixed use, highway corridor mixed use, employment mixed use, and service industrial zoning districts. Obviously, the city of Fernley didn't have our zoning districts in there. I think that was across the board for them. Taking a look at number 4 there, we didn't require the masonry wall in all cases in the heavy industrial and light industrial zoning districts. It's kind of appropriate for them to just have a 6-foot perimeter fence with whatever kind of screening they would like there. However, it does require the fence to be a solid wall when it's facing arterial streets, residential streets, state highways, and residential zoning districts. So I feel like that mitigates the impact there quite a bit. This one, the minimum 10-foot wide landscape buffer shall be provided along the entire side of the facility between any street or highway and the required wall. We had some landscaping requirements in there before. This one actually clarifies it. The city of Fernley had a 10-foot requirement. Carson City actually has a 20-foot requirement. So we're a little bit less restrictive than what they're doing. And you can see that the landscaping has to include trees, screening trees as required by chapter 402 of Title 15. All storage shall be within an enclosed building except for the storage of recreational vehicles, which shall be completely screened from view from surrounding properties and abutting streets at the first floor level. Screening from an adjacent 2-story building is not required.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Completely screened from view. What's that mean?
The masonry wall, and it'll have to be adjusted.
Well, okay,
height-wise.
because most RVs are higher than the wall.
Mhm.
So
So
you have to have a 15-foot wall to park RVs?
the wall would have to be taller, or it would have to be, the RVs would have to be placed more interior to the property. So it just depending on site layout, right? So you could put the buildings around the outside, put the RVs and stuff on. Towards the
I've
inside.
got a big problem with that. That's
Okay.
that's a little too much.
Yeah, would trees, screening trees, I mean, you're still gonna see the RVs, but would that be acceptable?
Yeah, we can certainly amend that section out completely. We numbered them, so when a motion is made or when it's proposed, we can.
I agree with
Okay.
Commissioner, the little owners.
Okay. And then is it just the first floor level? Can I ask a question? Is it just the part that says it has to be from the first floor level?
If I was going to wordsmith this, I'd say all storage shall be within an enclosed building except for the storage of recreational vehicles, period.
Okay.
Because the 6-foot high, Chairman Gray, because you're saying the 6-foot high fence is the minimum. So it has to meet the minimum standards of at least 6 feet high.
Yeah, the fence, as long as you got the 6-foot high fence, and if you're gonna see a couple of foot of RV, I mean, I don't think that's a.
Right.
I'm just asking. It's nice, yeah, no,
yeah.
Again, I just took what the city of Fernley had and plopped it into our ordinance there. So I could go either way on it.
Yeah. My thinking is, okay, if we require a wall, all right, then whatever shows above the wall, that's, I mean, you park an RV in your backyard, you're going to see it. Sure. So that's just, like I said, if I was wordsmithing, I'd just put a period after recreational vehicles and be done with it.
Chairman Gray, ironically, I'm thinking of if we, and I'm all for stealing language. I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we turn around. So less, so. But I'm thinking that there's RV parks here in Fernley that
What?
don't comply.
And
Thinking the same thing.
So is that a code enforcement nightmare then?
So if it was built prior to the ordinance being adopted, then it would be legal non-conforming. So they're not required to go and update it. So just, and the same would be throughout Lyon County.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I was thinking about the backyard thing. Let's not become an HOA.
Okay.
Let's just have them meet the wall requirement. And if there's a couple of feet, sticking above, there's a couple of feet sticking above.
That works for me. We can certainly do that.
Yeah, and actually, excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I may, thinking about this a little bit further. I don't even like number 6 at all. Yeah, because there are places where you can go rent, like you've got some equipment or some even building materials or whatever, and there is, you go to a place, they rent you a spot, and the stuff, you just put it outside, and it's not going to get bothered by the weather and stuff. As long as you got that wall where you can't see it. I mean, who cares? I mean, there's that one that just got put in down by the Highway 50 bar on US on 50.
I'm aware of that one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of equipment out there.
Yeah.
So I don't see the need to require somebody to put a building on there. So I don't like number 6 at all.
I just haven't sent Michael out to that one yet, but
Yeah. I like number 6 with the change. I think it's inviting thieves, vandals, and other things if not, and then there's a liability issue and a security issue and drives crime. I don't have, if you're gonna pay for storage, you may as well pay for interior storage. What do you guys think?
I just think
I like the way it was written in the first place, so I'm just letting you guys hash it out.
I'm just thinking there's some things that you have that you need to store that you don't necessarily have to store inside. And if it's behind a wall, I don't care if it's inside or not.
So I think actually the storage of construction material outside is prohibited in other areas of Title 15. I'll throw that out there, but
It's not a hill I'm gonna die for.
So like I said, it's already prohibited somewhere else, so I can go either way, but I just that's the language that FERNLEY had. I thought it was reasonable, but I'm definitely not the final say on that. So and then number 7 is the surface area to be used for outdoor storage shall be paved with a non-permeable material such as asphalt or concrete, or in the case of storage of heavy equipment covered with a material acceptable to the administrator, which will control fugitive dust. The intent on that one's dust and weeds. The weeds create a fire hazard, and the dust, it's been a windy year, and as everyone's pointed out, that can be a problem if it's just a gravel parking lot that doesn't have anything to control it. So that's the reason for that one. Couple things we noticed when we were going through this. The code already had some minimum and maximum lot sizes, but it didn't have some of the newer commercial districts or some of the new zoning districts in there. So we added them in there to make it consistent with the other zoning districts. So you can see we added community commercial and neighborhood commercial to the minimum lot size, minimum 1 acre, maximum 3 acres, regional commercial, commercial mixed use, highway corridor mixed use, employment mixed use, and service industrial, minimum 1 acre, maximum 10 acres, and then light industrial, minimum lot size is 1 acre, and then there's no maximum on in industrial land. And then clarified a few other little things. Number 14, no outside storage other than storage of RVs, boats, and other items specifically approved via I'm sorry about the formatting there. Specifically approved via conditional use permit is permitted in the neighborhood commercial, community commercial, regional commercial, commercial mixed use, highway mixed use, and service industrial or mixed use or employment mixed use districts. We took out the section on the minimum 6-foot high perimeter fence just because we clarified that in another area. So that language is taken care of. And then number 15 again was taken care of in another area. So that's one that we've had questions on anyway. That's why we clarified it elsewhere. And then again, the board said that they would like to leave the self-storage and RV storage as conditional uses in the commercial areas. So we updated or left the table updated as we had it in the previous draft. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I mean, it can be proposed kind of any way. And the items are numbered, so we can amend it pretty easy.
Can you go back to that one screen?
Yes, I can. Oops, maybe. I know. It's touchy. That one.
Fine, okay. I'll find out. I'm not gonna sit on my hands. Okay, I will propose the ordinance to amend Lyon County Code Title 15, Chapter 15.320, etc., with the change to item 6 to put a period after the word vehicles and eliminate the rest of that sentence.
All right, thank you.
It's only proposed.
Oh. But there you go. Good close.
So at the next meeting, when we hear it again, we can add in what he took out.
There we go.
I know how games played. Love you, Wes.
That's funny. 18B, code enforcement report and update. Mr. Haskins, again. Well, you're going to be a Josh Foley.
All right, Andrew Haskin, Lyon County Community Development Director for the record. So it was Commissioner Gray that had asked for a code enforcement update to the Board of County Commissioners. And so I'm here today to give you a presentation, talk a little bit about what code enforcement is, talk about some of the issues, and then kind of some proposals for moving forward. Michael Johnson, our code enforcement officer, is here as well, and he's here to answer any questions that you may have directly of Michael. So with that, what is code enforcement? Code enforcement is tasked with ensuring that the residents and businesses of Lyon County are complying with the county land use and nuisance code. So common code enforcement issues include building without a permit, zoning violations, conducting business without a license, accumulation of refuse, weeds, and illegal dumping, living in RVs, excessive unregistered vehicles, and abandoned vehicles. Code enforcement does not get involved with traffic violations or enforcement, animal concerns such as dogs and horses, and disturbance of peace violations. So the first one and the last one are typically law enforcement issues, and animal concerns would go to animal control. Oh, something I want to point out. So there's pictures throughout the presentation, they're aerials. There was a rumor going around that we are using drones for code enforcement. I want to dispel that rumor. We do not own a drone. That's just aerial. That's like a Google Earth. It's actually called pictometry. It's something that we use for
Better than drones.
I just want to point that out, that we are not using drones to spy on people's backyards. So
because they might get shot.
we don't even own a drone, so
oh no, we do. Code enforcement does what we do.
Code enforcement, that's what I meant. All right, so you'll see some of these pictures. I want to make that very clear. So objectives and goals of code enforcement. The county's policy is to achieve voluntary compliance with reported and discovered code violations. Now, that doesn't mean that we stop with voluntary compliance, but that's what we strive to achieve, is to get people to resolve the code enforcement issues as they come up. And we're pretty successful at it. And you'll see later in the presentation, I have some numbers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the county has established the following goals and objectives. 1, to educate and inform the public about county code and to gain voluntary compliance. You'd be surprised how many people just don't realize that something is against county code. And once they find out, and once we notify them, they go ahead and take care of the issue. They're not trying to be malicious about it. It just, they didn't realize that you can't have 30
treasures outside.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's goal number 1. Number two, protect the health, safety, and welfare of property owners, residents, businesses, and visitors. Now, I would actually probably put that again up above number one, because health and safety are always priority. That's something that we take very seriously in code enforcement and the building and planning departments. And number three is establish and maintain a proactive environment to help solve community issues and stay at the forefront of creative and effective code compliance and enforcement. By the way, this picture here is of one up in Silver City that is actually getting cleaned up here sometime in the next month. So we've been in contact with the property owner. Actually, the previous property owner had passed away, had to go through a court process to get it switched over. New guy has purchased it, and we're working with him, and he's very motivated to clean it up. So code enforcement priorities, not all violations are the same degree of severity. As such, the county has established priority ranking and procedures. It is the county's policy that code enforcement follows the priority ranking set forth. 1, violations that present an imminent threat to public health and safety or the environment. You can see this picture here. This is actually a house that I had have my guys go out and red tag a couple weeks ago. They actually tried to claim this was vandalism. It was kind of funny, but it's kind of hard to tell from the picture. They've wired that 220 connection, which goes into the attic. There's no breaker attached to that. It's just hot all the way. And you can see with the panel hanging down there and the hole through the side, it's very jagged edges. The wind gets a swinging on something like that, it's going to rip through that sheathing there, and with no breaker, it's for sure going to burn that house down. So we had to go out and actually MB Energy told us about it, and then we sent them back out to go and pull the power at the street to get this one resolved.
Do I want to ask what they were doing in the attic?
No.
What were they doing?
That I don't know. We did not go in and inspect that part. I will tell you that they did come in and get a building permit, and I believe it was addressed at that point. So
Was it because just ask the property owner, Wes, what were you doing?
I was putting in a new marijuana grow operation in my attic, and I needed the heat lamps.
Anyway, so that was just left open like that, or is that the way?
That was how we found it. And that was how MB Energy found it and reported it to us.
Shut it with everything hanging.
Yeah,
there.
it was not possible to shut it. And again, it's kind of hard to see the wires.
Well,
there.
at least they have their breakers, identified.
I did note that.
Yeah, there was another wire that ran down. I don't know. It was pretty bad. So we were on that one within we had the power shut off within about an hour. So we dealt with it real quick. So number two, priority number 2, violations affecting storm drainage, wetlands, and or adjacent areas. Number 3, public health and safety, business license and land use code violations, including failure to obtain required permits or failure to meet conditions and required permits. And number 4, multiple complaints received on the same property. You'll see in some of the numbers that I have reported later, they sometimes doesn't necessarily make sense with the number of properties that we're working with, because those properties might have 2, 3, 4 complaints on them. So I want to clarify that a little bit. Some of the numbers don't seem consistent. You might have even seen that in the reports that I give you. It's just the way it's classified. It's kind of confusing. But we have to classify it that way in order to,
No, there's not enough dogs running around.
So, next I'm just kind of going to run through a little bit of, some of the concerns, some examples of some of the main issues that we take a look at. So trash and debris concerns, including weeds. There's a section of Lyon County Code that prohibits this. I'm not going to read through that unless you really want me to, but a lot of people just don't realize that you can't have all the trash and debris and accumulation of junk and all this other stuff on your property. So when we notify them, we have pretty high compliance rate. And we'll see this later. This one obviously is pretty bad. that's a problem that I can tell you didn't take a day to create, and it's not gonna get cleaned up in that day. It's gonna take some time. So I don't remember the address on this one, but anyway, this is a Lyon County site.
Quick question. So, you know, besides the buildings, the debris and all that, is that actual household garbage we're looking at?
There, Michael
Lots
might,
of it, yes.
yeah,
So what I,
Just debris.
oh,
yeah, I'll get there later in the presentation.
okay.
Is there a way to accelerate like these properties, accelerate them to the DA's office and?
We'll get there. Let me, I've got some slides covering kind of how we handle this. But to provide a very brief answer, yes. Living in campers and RVs, Lyon County Code, it's prohibited to live in a camper or RV, mostly because they don't have the adequate services, sewer and water and everything. So you end up with illegal dumping, you end up with all kinds of issues. A lot of times you see, as in this case, more than one RV or camper on one property. You get a group of them living together. So we go out and these are a code enforcement complaint. Abandoned vehicles, we deal with the abandoned vehicles.
That's one park at Smith's now, isn't it?
It could be. I don't.
No.
Different one. So you know, but we go out and we try and deal with this. RVs specifically are very difficult because it's almost impossible to get them towed. No tow company wants to take them because they have to be remediated on the inside because of environmental concerns, and they're very costly. It's costly to do that. It costs them money, so they don't want to take it if they're there. So it's a big challenge that we have. This kind of spells it out here, but talking a little bit about the violations of these ordinances. Generally, a code enforcement violation is actually a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 6 months imprisonment and or up to $1,000 fine. So just want to point that out. Oops, I went backwards.
Mr. Haskins, Mr. Chair, if I may. It seems like our fine there is out of whack. They could get 6 months imprisonment, but the maximum fine is $1,000.
I believe that's state law on, that'd be a question for the DA, but I believe that's state law for misdemeanor. So we don't have any ability to change that or set that. For the criminally prosecuted cases, there's other ways to handle.
I'm guessing 6 months imprisonment has never happened on something like that.
I don't believe so, no.
How many of us believe at the time too, though? Just rhetorical. No.
All right, excess junk vehicles, that's actually a Nevada state law. It's an NRS 487. You can't have more than 2 vehicles that are unfit for the road. This is a big problem in Lyon County. And it's something that we're dealing with, but for similar reasons, it's kind of difficult to enforce those, and we'll kind of get into that in a minute. Yes, sir.
On something like that, what if there was a fence, 6 foot high fence with slats or brick wall?
So, I mean, it would still technically be against the law, but because of the number of vehicles that again is a state law, it doesn't provide any exemptions for being screened outside of the view of the public.
Got a lot of RVs there. Maybe it's on a storage facility.
It very well could be.
Multi-room house.
Yeah. So, yeah, technically a 6 foot screening is not going to alleviate this issue. However, you know, as a code enforcement priority, if we can't see it from the street, we generally don't, you know, unless somebody makes a complaint about it, we're not going to pursue that.
That's sad. There's probably enough violations out there. You don't have to go looking for them.
Yeah.
People that call you.
Yeah.
Bring it to your attention. Yeah.
I've got some statistics on that in a minute. Secure or remove housing hazards. This one showed up on a lot in Silver Springs, not really sure where it came from, so we're working to get that removed. We've contacted the owner. But no permits or anything. It just kind of showed up one day, so.
Entryway steps.
Yeah.
That's a darn nice door for that trailer.
Chairman Gray,
Sure.
it seemed like didn't we just pass something that you can't wheel in a unit like that?
Yes, yeah, that's in county code.
5 years or older?
5 years or older. Yeah, there's a number of different standards that this manufactured home in particular wouldn't meet. Got to be more than one section, over 1,200 square feet. So yeah, this one is obviously, we're working to get rid of it. So working with the property owner on that one. And like I said, no building permit or anything, no permit from the state to deal with this one. So we're in the process on it.
They get permits for the addition.
Scott's doghouse.
And then, so parking along public rights of way, it's another thing that gets addressed, and that Michael goes out and takes a look at. Business license concerns, businesses that are operating without a business license. We want to try and make sure that they're doing things right. A lot of times if they're not operating with a business license, there's a reason. And so we want to make sure that that reason gets addressed. So something that we deal with. Building permit concerns. This is something we had to go red tag out, I think in Smith Valley. Somebody was building a 2-story shed. You're not allowed to build a 2-story shed. I think it's over the 200 square foot rule as well. So this is something that would require a building permit. So Michael will go and investigate those along with our building inspectors. They do a pretty good job of keeping up with this stuff too as they're driving around.
Dave Hockaday should have known better.
And then zoning conflicts or easement issues. This one, it's kind of hard to tell from this picture, but somebody's built a fence across the county right of way. Actually, we're trying to identify it and make sure that it is a county right of way, but it is blocking the right of way to the property next door. So we're trying to get that problem solved. So that would be an easement issue. Zoning district conflicts would be something, somebody's running a business where they're not supposed to be, or they've built something that they're not supposed to in that zoning district. We take a look at that, setback issues, that kind of thing. So code enforcement procedures, 80 to 90% of code enforcement cases are complaint driven. Complaints can be made online through the county's website or by phone, email, or mail or email. And that's pretty key. I mean, you can certainly drive around the county and find code enforcement cases, but we do focus on the ones that are complaint driven, just because there's quite honestly a lot of them. So it keeps us pretty busy, and those are the ones that folks are having issues with. Yes, sir.
Are the complainants made public, or does the person being complained against, do they have a right to know who's complained against them?
Yeah, and I think for safety purposes, that's probably best to keep it that way.
Somebody said the other day that they were told it would have to be made public, so I was asking.
Yeah.
What about a public records request?
I'd have to check with the district attorney on that. There are some exemptions for public records requests, but I don't know if that's one of them. To be really honest, so in my time here, we haven't had one, so the issue hasn't come up. Once a complaint is made, it is investigated by our code enforcement officer, Michael, to confirm the violation and the severity of the violation. We do have complaints that are made that are unfounded. It happens somewhat frequently. So we got to go out and take a look, get some pictures, figure out what's going on. Once a complaint has been verified, the property owner is notified of the violation and instructed to correct the issue and contact the code enforcement officer. I think, oops, this thing is like
2% rule.
All right, so if the owner is willing to work with the code enforcement officer to correct the issue, the officer monitors the cleanup and corrective action process and dismisses the case once it has been resolved. If the property owner is unresponsive or unwilling to resolve the issue, Code enforcement works with the district attorney's office to determine the best course of action. Right now, we typically follow two different processes. It can go through a declaration of a nuisance. That actually comes before the Board of County Commissioners. I don't think we've done one of those in a while.
Only done one in 6 years.
Yeah, and there's some reasons for that. You know, if it's declared a nuisance, what happens is they get 6 months or so to clean it up, and then if they don't, then the county has to go clean it up at our expense. We can lien the property, but in most cases, you don't actually recoup the cost, even if it goes to all the way to a sale. So it can be a bit of an issue. We don't, code enforcement doesn't have a specific budget for that cleanup, so it's a bit of a challenge. The second is criminal prosecution, and that does, again, both of these are through the district attorney's office. With criminal prosecution, a court case is open like anything else, and it has to work its way through that. We get a lot of folks that, you know, that make a complaint, they'll follow up with us and they'll wonder why it's taking so long to get it cleaned up. I thought you turned this over to the district attorney's office 6 months ago. And that's true, but it takes their office a little bit of time to go through, get all the evidence they need. And then once it's filed with the court, the timeline is out of their hands. So it's kind of tricky. It takes a little bit of time. And then even if there's a conviction, the court generally gives them 6 months or so to clean it up, and they can get extensions based off of that. So it's a lengthy process, and it's not going to happen overnight, no matter which way we go on it.
When was the last time we actually had one go to court?
I'll get to that. Just recently, like a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So code enforcement stats from October 1st, 2020 through May 31st, 2022. There have been 798 code enforcement cases. Those are the cases that were actually founded. Of the 798 cases, 71.55% or 571 of those cases have been resolved and closed. On average, 48.5% of the code enforcement cases are closed within 30 days of being open. That's pretty significant, I think. Michael does a great job of working with folks to get them cleaned up and resolved. The cases that take longer than 30 days tend to be more complex and larger issues. This is an interesting example of a excess trash issue. And you can see there on the right, it was cleaned up. It's not perfect, but you know, we don't have in county code maintenance ordinance for buildings, so there's really nothing to make them fix up the building. So we were focusing on the trash there.
The tree is happy, it's blooming.
Yeah. So total complaints, this is those 798 that, oh no, I'm sorry, this is complaints and not cases. So some of them are unfounded, some of them are not, but abandoned vehicles, we've had 62. And this goes back a little bit further, by the way, than October 1st, 2020. This goes back through 2019, just the way our system tracks it. So junk and trash, excess refuse, 458, by far our largest category. Building permits, 28, excessive vehicles, 82, improper land use, 33, business licenses, 22, other 90, parking, 118, RVs, 289, our second biggest category. And then conditional use permit violations. We've had a couple of those.
When you say RV, is it people living in an RV?
Yes, I should clarify.
Under, what would fall under other?
I don't know, Michael might be able to shed some light on that if you would.
Things like easements that we were talking about. I would like to add one thing. The problem with the system is it gives you one choice. So if you're living in an RV, then you got a lot of trash and debris. It's classified as one or it's classified as the other. The system doesn't allow you to have both. So you know, you could have RV and trash, but
The system meaning?
the stage program system that people put, if you put in a complaint.
Hey, Michael, why don't you come up here so that the folks on Zoom.
Can you open two cases then? I mean, if you can.
Yeah, in turn you could, but sometimes I'll end up with something and say that it's, well, there's two concerns here, but the one was, let's say, weeds and trash, but in turn, The second one is RV, dealing with RVs, but it's really just the one case. So I'm just saying that those numbers sometimes get skewed. The report I give him each month, as I split it out, it might be in Dayton, it was one house, trash and debris, and living, and junk cars. But it's really just the one case, but it kind of deals with all of those things separated out. And then you also have times when he complains and he complains and he complains all about the same house yet. So it looks like, it's 3 different complaints, but really it's just on one property there. And when you refer to others, it could be stuff like we have chickens, roosters, people, have roosters and they're not allowed to have roosters. So it falls into a category that's really not any of those other choices of what it would be.
So I have a question on the RVs, the 289. That's an awful lot. That's gotta be all people living in RVs. It's parking in RVs too.
No, that would fall under parking. It's people living in RVs or,
289. Wow.
well, that you're also talking since 19, so that's 4 years, 3.5 years.
Just out of curiosity, maybe you can or can't, just maybe the AL stop and answer, but does one of those RVs include the Smiths guy? Guy living in the RV that's been there for a year and a half at Smiths?
I'm gonna say no, because it's private property and the county wouldn't go onto there to.
If he's living in the RV? That's all it is private property.
So, yeah, correct. Let me clarify that. We may or may not have had a complaint on it. I don't know. We'd have to take a look at the system and
So
see.
you do now?
Yeah, okay. We'll take a look at it. We'll make it go.
About it for more than one person. I mean,
Okay.
The RV doesn't run and he's living there.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, but, and again, RVs are kind of challenging because they're tough to get towed. So we'll work with the property owner at the
he actually
Smiths.
towed the RV from another location to there and started the process over.
Oh, nice. Okay, we'll take a look at that one and see what we can do about it. It's that one can be a tough one. And some of these cases, they do kind of play whack-a-mole, right? Where they move around and then you got to go and chase them all throughout the county. We've had several like
I will
that.
have him towed to the Carson City line.
Yeah, like parking, right?
Mhm.
You can't park more than 72 hours, but you can move it for a foot, move your
Mhm.
vehicle a foot, and your 72 hours start over.
Correct.
So so a lot of times on parking violations, you guys are just chasing your tail and wasting money.
It's a tough one, and it's not a huge priority for us. It's something that we do go out and investigate when we get them. But remember our priority list. Those are what we focus on. The junk and trash things. That's a health safety thing all day long. You see big piles of trash like that. It's attracting rodents. It's attracting disease. It's a big issue. So we do focus on those. But the RV thing, again, that's a big priority because people end up doing illegal dumping with it and it ends up being, a health safety issue. So, but yeah. All right. So code enforcement issues, property owners' willingness to cooperate. Number one, obviously, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. People don't always like being told that they've got to clean up their yard. So if they're willing to cooperate, then we can get it closed out pretty quick. But if not, then we have to take it to the next level. And as I explained, those are pretty lengthy processes. The 80-20 rule, roughly 20% of the code enforcement cases take 80% of the code enforcement efforts. So those are the really bad ones. Those are the ones that you guys hear. Those are the ones that you get 80% of the complaints on, right? People calling. It's the same properties. I assure you, we know about them. We are working on them, but it takes time, and it takes about 80% of the time, to be honest, to deal with it. And so we work through that. And kind of going hand in hand with that is public expectations on how long a code enforcement case should take. I already said it, but if it took 10 years to create the problem, it'll probably take longer than 30 days to get it cleaned up. Some of these things are pretty massive. There's a lot of cost associated with hauling that stuff off. And so it can be a real challenge. If the case goes through the district attorney for prosecution, the court process is lengthy, and the DA does a great job. We have a great partnership with them, but like I said, once it's filed with the court's the one that's just determines the timeline, and they're the ones that determine how long that the person has if we get a conviction on it. So we have to give people their due process, and that is the appropriate way to go about it. But it doesn't get cleaned up in the time frame that people would expect or would want. So, but that is how it has to be. unfortunately. So if we could wave a magic wand and just clean them all up, we would, trust us, but it takes some time. Yes, sir.
And I'm not gonna speak too long on this, I promise you about it, but you know, I brought this forward. I'm actually looking, I've got an agenda item coming up to create a code enforcement task force to help out the DA, you guys, anything we can do to expedite this process. But I'm thinking of one property specifically in Dayton. Every time, it's like a game. Every time he gets a visit or a letter, he'll do something and he'll bring back twice as much. You know, there's been allegations of running a business out of there and all that. He's basically just thumbing his nose. It's been going on for a couple of years. I just, you know, in 6 years, we've had one condemnation come to us. And I think people, you know, more of those cases came to us, one to be preventative in nature, and two, people realize we're serious. I don't want to live in an HOA. but I sure as
427,
heck don't want to live in a dome either.
427 LaFawn.
Well, yeah, there you go. I will, yeah, I wasn't gonna call anybody out. Yeah, 427 LaFawn.
So they were just found guilty a couple weeks ago, $900 fine and 6 months to clean it up. So
I think condemnation would have been a better route for that one. I mean,
well,
$900. I mean, the guy is running a business out of there. It's like, oh, you know.
and that's certainly something that if the board wants to go that direction, we can take a look at. Again, that is a lengthy process, and it's something that ultimately 9 times out of 10 the county is going to have to pay. So
I don't know if you're putting the weight on them though. They may, you know, and then offer them resources like, hey, there's, you know, desert pigs that are, you know, willing to help out. There's other community people that are willing to help out. I mean, there are people out there willing to help, and that may be the impetus they need. That hey, you may lose your property over this. You really want to go that route.
yeah, and it's something that we can certainly take a look at.
I think
I've
we
got
need
a couple here that are.
Yeah, I just think we need to see some more of those coming our way and let us make the decision based, you know, on that point. And not trying to do your job. I'm just saying there's a lot of outcry. We've seen a lot of growth and development in the area. You know, people want to be proud of their communities. And you drive, I mean, especially when you drive past 427 LaFawn, it's like, my God, you know, but anyways, I digress.
No, I do get it, and you'll see here, we do have a few that are, we're probably bringing forward as a public nuisance.
Please.
So 410 B&T Way, that's another one, we get a lot of complaints, there's a pending court case on that. 72 Red Rock Road, that one was sent to the DA, however, it has since been sold, the new owner is cleaning it up, and that's almost cleaned up. And one of the nice things, well, one of the things right now is the property values are pretty high, so people have an incentive to get this stuff cleaned up. And so it is happening. But in the case of 427 LaFawn, that one took quite a while to get that way. It's tough to get it cleaned up. 20 Overland, that's a possible public nuisance declaration that we might be bringing forward to you. We're going to work with the DA on that one. We've already had some preliminary discussions. 4410 Deodar. That one was sent to the district attorney's office. 844 Brandstetter, possible public nuisance declaration. 85 Hart, that one sent to the DA. I believe that was a pending court case. That one I know because I've been copied on a few of the emails that we've had several complaints about. 314 Second Avenue was sent to the district attorney's office. 22 North Rainbow was sent to the district attorney's office. 3865 Elm Street was sent to the DA. There's a pending court case, but that one we might do a possible public nuisance declaration. And the same with 3155 Elm Street. So these are the ones we get complaints about on a pretty consistent basis. There are others. This is not an exhaustive list, but when we sat down, that kind of the priorities.
Yeah, and that's got, I'm glad we're hearing about the priorities and actually with addresses. So is it an either or process? And it's probably good for Mr. Wright. I mean, can it go both directions at the same time, criminal and public nuisance, or is it one route or the other?
It can go both routes.
Okay. And I'm not suggesting it should. I mean, in some cases, though, it's very egregious, and sometimes it's fun and games for the person that lives there. So,
all right. So moving forward, I've got some suggestions. You know, and these are things that we'll be talking about in the future. Obviously, this agenda item was for a presentation only, so we won't be taking action on it. But in my opinion, the number one thing that we could do for code enforcement enforcement issues is mandatory trash service. And I realized that in the past that hasn't been really popular idea. But I have some reasons why. Remember when we did the last RFP, I did not really push for this, but I've done some research on it here within the county, and there's a reason I'm going to push for it this next time, this next go around, obviously. Not this decision maker, but
You're not making friends.
well, let me tell you why first. So there's only two legal ways to dispose of trash in Lyon County. One, having trash service, or two, taking it to a transfer station. If you take a look at, you know, if it's illegal to burn trash, it's illegal to bury it, you can't dump it in like hot, and you can't, you know, there's only two ways to get rid of it legally in Lyon County. And if you take a look at cost, because I know that has been an argument in the past, the trash service is probably cheaper than taking even one load a month to the transfer station. And you have that trash sitting in somebody's, even if they go only once a month, you have that trash sitting in somebody's yard for a month, attracting animals, attracting rodents, and it's an issue. So I decided to kind of put some numbers to this, and right now in Lyon County, there are roughly 11,000, oh, I'm sorry, this is central Lyon County. I did everything basically north of the river that was in an unincorporated Lyon County. The only reason I only did north of the river was because I didn't have a chance to reach out to DNS and get their numbers as well. But I reached out to Waste Management, and I got a list of addresses that are served by trash service. So right now there's roughly 11,012 parcels in central Lyon County with houses on. Of those 11,012 parcels, 9,387 parcels have trash service, which leaves about 1,635 parcels that do not have trash service. Of those, 28.18% of those have had a code enforcement complaint for trash and junk buildup. Of our code enforcement complaints for trash and junk buildup, not a single code enforcement, not a single one of those complaints had trash service. I think that's pretty. I think that those numbers stand out.
Yeah, so excuse me, Mr. Chair. So over 70% of the parcels that don't have trash service have not had a complaint.
Well, so those are the ones that we haven't had a complaint. That's not saying that there's not an issue.
No,
and I would suspect that number is higher than this.
I'm just using your numbers.
I know, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I would suspect that number is higher if we really were to go out and take a look at it, but these are the ones that have had the complaints. And so.
So question,
yes.
How many of those are rentals?
That I don't know. I can get that number for you. I just didn't have time to put it together. I actually got these numbers from Waste Management.
Should have known the question was coming up. Andrew talked about it. I want to know about the rental situation.
And we will discuss it when we get to our special meeting on the celebrations.
And I don't know that it's gonna affect your percentage now. It's actually 1625.
Is it? Okay.
And I want to know
That's
how
probably
many, not only do I want to know rentals, I want to know how many of those people are seniors.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of seniors that share trash service amongst 3 and 4 properties. So if you want mandatory trash, I want free senior services.
So I will point out that
We will have an
sharing trash is
argument.
actually against the franchise agreement. And when Waste Management finds out, they actually send code enforcement to complaint, and we have to go and deal with that. So sharing trash is allowed.
But like she said, if that's the
Then I
case, she
want
wants
free
free
service.
service for seniors.
We'll
We
fix
can-
the problem one way or the other. If you're gonna put on, we have to have mandatory. I mean, I paid for 2 houses to have trash service. I don't have a problem paying for that, but do not put the hardship on our seniors.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm just pointing out that almost a third of the code enforcement complaints are also, or I mean, almost a third of the folks that don't have trash service also have the code enforcement complaint.
Well, that's why I want to know about the rental property,
I
because it
will-
was
I
brought
will-
up before about making it mandatory for anything that was a rental.
I will bring that information along. You get to that meeting, we'll have a much more detailed analysis, but today's.
Yeah, I mean, if we can drill this down, we should be able to drill down which ones are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can provide that. Again, moving forward, monthly meeting with the district attorney, sheriffs, sheriff, fire, and other regulatory agencies to discuss how to best address the worst of the worst. I think this is going to be key, and I feel like this kind of goes along with the task force idea that we had just talked about. So that's something that we're going to be proposing here. I'll reach out to the various agencies and work on setting that up, but that's something that we've done. Pre-establishing a citation process, I think that's something that we can do. County code allows for it, but we don't have a process in place, so it makes it a little bit tricky. That's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because if you get fines and stuff that rack up, it doesn't necessarily mean that the property is going to get cleaned up, and it could lead to some other issues. So I do want to throw out some caution there, but we would just, through the establishing the process, we would figure out when that makes sense. So
It also adds to the file that may need to eventually go to the DA.
it could, yes. Issuing citations for chronic offenders, that kind of 3 and 4 kind of go together. Declaration of a public nuisance for properties with unresponsive out-of-state owners. We do have quite a few of those. And then review ordinances for civil procedures. That's something that we'll be taking a look at here in the next 6 months or so. So with that, are there any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. A few things. Are people able to declare like a mental illness, hoarding type issue that they have? And if so, how do we handle that situation?
Well, I haven't had anybody talk about that, but I have had a number of people that have been going through cancer treatments, or they're handicapped and they got like a hospice type assisted living with them and stuff. And so just work with them as much as you can over time. As long as they're willing to call me on a monthly basis, tell me what they tried to do or they're doing that, then we just try to move forward with that.
Right.
Some of them are slow, because they're just poor people in a lot of times. And they got all this stuff, and it's gonna take a while to get a dumpster every once in a while, but you're almost talking $1,000 a dumpster. So 3 dumpsters a year is $3,000 more than they were putting out before for such a thing. So you try to work with them and not have to get to the point of going to the DA. You really get to the DA when I write to you and I've written to you 2 or 3, 4 months, and you just won't talk to me anymore. Then in essence, those letters are, if you don't talk to me, you're gonna, in essence, talk to the DA's office.
Right.
And then that's what the case will get pushed over the day. You're hoping you can get them to respond back to you before they have to get to Steve and stuff.
Right. And then are you able, I don't know, and I'm not trying to put Ms. Holmes on the spot here, but do you guys work together to help some seniors with possible funds or grants or anything? I don't know.
We have worked on several cases in the past. It's really dependent upon the individual, and there's actually no grant funding to aid individuals in trash cleanup, so to speak. We do and have helped individuals with specific property needs if it falls within the line of our homemaker one-time cleanup funds, but that's pretty limited to within the home. But Andrew and I have been talking about potentially bringing forward, it was something I attempted my first year in this position, was writing for CDBG funds to create a service that could help pay for external cleanup, which isn't included in any of our grant available funds right now. So we'll be bringing that back again when CDBG opens up and hopefully be more successful with it this time.
Thank you. And then,
if I could say, which what the question was, this last year, in 2021, Waste Management had given me probably 30, 50 vouchers that up to 4 yards of trash to free, just get it dropped off at the transfer station. And so they gave me some of those that I could pass out to some people.
Right on.
This year I haven't received any, but I think it's also because we're still under a franchise agreement.
Right.
Termination. So if they win, maybe they would do that again, but I have received that.
and Mr. Johnson, thanks for going to, I'm guessing you're not always met with a warm, healthy smile and a handshake. Okay. I hope you have a Kevlar vest. But are you're probably denied access to property quite often. How do you get a hold of some of these people? Stand by the gate, sit up?
Typically, I just write to them, I get your address, and then let's just say it's your property. I write the address down, go find out if you live in Dayton. Oh, well, then that must be a, so then I'll write to you and I'll write to the tenant resident. And so the tenant knows that the owner got it, but the owner knows that the tenant got a copy of the letter too. And then typically I'm asking them to contact me in 10 days, just so we can talk. It doesn't mean it's got to be cleaned up in 10 days. I'm
Right.
just trying to get somebody to say, okay, I realize that this is an issue. So that's typically it. It's all through writing.
Right on. Talk about a thankless job. I'm guessing there weren't too many apply for it, so good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are those certified or return receipt letters? I mean, how do they know they've received them?
When I first began, I sent just a standard letter. I'm just assuming they will, but I've written to you twice and you haven't responded yet, then I send a certified letter so that that they can know it's.
Because that may be dragging the process out too. If you're taking 2 months, I mean,
It could be, but it's also $8 a letter. And so,
And we are actually changing that process. We did have a meeting
Monday.
Monday. Clarified some things with the district attorney's office as far as building requirements for prosecution. So in the past, we were under the impression that we had to send all those multiple letters. Now we're changing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With a couple comments primarily. Commissioner Gray's noted a couple of times during hearing, I certainly don't want us to be an HOA. And I know you don't have the budget or the people that you need to focus primarily on the more egregious examples out here. And I certainly hope that you take into consideration, the spirit of the code, not necessarily the letter of the code, because there are some gray areas where, yeah, sure, you could write me up for it, but you're just going to make me mad and I'm going to make your job worse. Because I am a strong believer in personal property rights, and it's my house. I'm going to do what I damn well want with it. So I understand there's county codes in that, but like I said, let's not be heavy-handed on this at all.
Questions, comments? Okay, this was just a discussion item. Thank you. And
Steve have something.
Steve, it looks like Steve's got something as well as.
Just briefly, Steve Ryan, DA. I think one of the takeaways today is that, the county is working on these issues, especially the problematic ones. I understand it's not fast enough. And as you can see from Andrew's discussion today, it's not a one size fits all. We have absentee owners, we have criminal issues, we have disabilities, all sorts of different things. And so it's just it's a difficult issue, but we are working on it. I think that's the takeaway. The other thing I just emphasize is that Michael does do a great job of giving people a chance. He wants to work with them and get voluntary compliance. And then if the case does get into court, so everybody knows it drags on in court a little bit. The typical process is the person's convicted in court and then is allowed additional time to clean up. So remember, you've had that 6 months of trying to get them to clean up. You get into court a few months before the case is resolved, and then they're given example 427 LaFond, 9 months to clean it up. So there is that delay, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening on the cases.
Yeah.
So we're aware of the issue, trying to work it out, and we have cooperation from the sheriff's office, from fire departments. Everybody's working together on this.
Thank you, sir.
Doug Holmes said, for the record, I was a former code enforcement officer, and I think highly of Michael, because trust me, it's a thankless job. It's mainly not from the people that are violating, but the people that are complaining about the person. They call you up and they call you every name in the book. How come nothing's happening? You tell them it's turned over to the DA, and I know they're busy too, but you get the brunt of the process, and I'm sure he's had quite a few conversations and called every name in the book. And I think the solution to this is somewhere in there. It has to be a way that you give them the authority to do a citation, so at least they're accomplishing something.
So what you're saying is he's hated by everybody?
Pretty much.
I'm starting to say you actually brought up a good point, and I think it goes to communication. Well, once we receive the complaint, do we ever circle back with the complainant to let them know status? Or do we have to rely on them to call us back? And at that point, they're already agitated. but they haven't heard anything. I mean,
Yeah, I used to get back to them, but most of the time it wasn't good enough. You know, it's not happening fast enough. They think they turn in a complaint, it'll be handled.
For the most part, yes. So if you put it into the Sage system, which is the complaint system from the county, once you put your complaint in, you can go in there and look at the status of the complaint, whether it's being reviewed and stuff like that. I typically don't call people back, but there are times that they'll have a complaint in there and they have to have an email left. And so I'll send them an email because I got a question about what you're asking here. Were you saying that it was, when you say it's a mess, are we talking trash and debris or what are we talking? Is it weeds? What's the mess? You know, just try to, but for the most part, I'll bet you 80% of them don't get feedback, shall we say.
okay, 'cause that's
They're
always
just
been one of the biggest
expecting.
Problems is they're afraid their complaints are going off into a deep, dark chasm and nobody ever does anything. That goes back years, back to when Maureen was handling them. And I think maybe a little feedback, you know, hey, you know, set the stage, you know, hey, this could take a year or 2 years. And maybe a periodic circle back with them might relieve some of the tension.
Well, I'm gonna say the people that do call back, we had a lady the other day and I forwarded it on to Steve and Andrew, but I'd also talked to her and told her it's been turned over to the DA since February. So of course, then it takes 6 months to go to court. So we're not that far into it. And then we'll have to decide at that point what the court's gonna do. So she's aware of that. She just doesn't like that it's not moving. It's still the same way. So.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. They all hate you and they file the complaints, they call up. Well, I don't know about the other.
Oh, they
I
call.
get a lot of calls. And it's like, okay, what's happening? And I'm like, okay, there's the process. So we end up explaining your job quite often. So we feel you're paid because I get yelled at a lot. So.
Yeah, 427 on the font is like etched in my forehead. I get your calls too. Yeah, oh, I know. That's the first thing I called it. All right, thank you guys. We are going to move on to HR at this point. Let's take a break. All right, take a break. We're trying to power through this.
Well, we can power through after me.
Yeah, blue came on. Is Eric online?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you're up next, boss. Okay, we're calling this meeting back to order. We're going to move on to item number 19, possible action, approved personnel safety revision, where did I get safety? Approved personnel policy revision, authorizing payment of on-call stipends to deputy DAs effective 1 July 2022.
Good morning, Eric Malofsky, Director of HR. So a new state law will take effect on July 1st, requiring the courts to hold bail hearings of every defendant that's arrested within 48 hours of arrest. This will necessitate work on weekends, not only for the court staff, but also for the public defenders and the prosecutors who need to attend these bail hearings that'll happen on weekends. We have already, a few meetings ago, we had already increased the public defender's compensation in large part because of the extra work that goes along with this. This represents, excuse me, a similar effort on the other side, on the prosecutor side of the justice system. Because all of our prosecutors are salaried FLSA exempt employees, we do not currently have a mechanism in the policies that allows us to compensate them for basically giving up an entire weekend to be on call for these bail hearings or for the 6, 7, 8 hours of work, whatever it ends up being, that extra work that they'll end up doing on the weekends for the hearings. And so we looked at what some other counties are doing. We talked with the district attorney and we landed on a stipend of $500 per week. And this will include the weekend bail hearing duty for being on call and handling those types of things that happen outside business hours. This is something that was built into the budget. I know Mr. Foley had specifically mentioned this during the budget hearings in April. So it's something we've had planned. This is just the personnel policy language that authorizes us to pay it out and speaks explicitly to what the types of the on-call rotations that the DA will be permitted to establish.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, any questions from the board? Mr. Jacobson. Yeah, push and hold your button down. There you go.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. So I guess, Eric, I have a question. It's 48 hours, is that correct?
Yes.
So nobody should ever have to be on call on Saturday then.
Well, there may be, and Steve or even Josh, maybe if I get this wrong, they'll help set me straight. But my understanding is like sometimes you're going to have a defendant, let's say they get arrested intoxicated on Thursday evening. They're not going to be in any position they're not going to have their faculties about them sometimes to be attending a bail hearing on Friday. And so that person, you're going to need to conduct the hearing on Saturday if you want to hit the 48-hour requirement. And it rolls forward with same thing for the folks that get arrested on Friday night and so on.
We did, Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller, for the record, we did try to get to the sheriff to limit his arrest to certain days of the week so we wouldn't have problems. He wasn't going to go along with it.
Wow, even you're getting in the comedy game now. All right, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. I just have a question, a language question. The way that's written, all exempt employees shall receive a stipend of $500 per week in exchange for being on. I mean, I just don't want that to be interpreted. Do you get $500 every week? $500, I understand what you're trying to do. I'm just saying that the language is kind of fishy.
Further down in the paragraph, it indicates that the district attorney will appoint only one deputy DA to be on call per week. And so the concept here is clearly that one person gets it each week. And so there's 52 stipends that get paid per year.
Yeah, it's just that language still is just. Anyway, my comment.
I don't know. He's a lawyer.
Commissioner
and
Henderson, if I
HR.
could, it says you get the stipend in exchange for being on call. It doesn't say you get the stipend just for being an employee or just for doing your normal job. It says you get the $500 stipend for being on call. And then one or two sentences down from that, it indicates that the DA shall designate only one deputy DA to be on call each week. So I think I'm open to suggestions if it could be worded better, but I think we're okay.
Any further questions? Looking for a motion.
I will move to approve the personnel policy revision authorizing payment of on-call stipend to deputy district attorneys effective July 1st, 2022.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Nothing online. Call for the vote. All in favor of the motion presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item number 20, utilities for possible action to approve task order 109 with Far West Engineering and an amount not to exceed $468,800 for engineering and support services from final design through project completion for the 10 Mile Hill Tank Water Project in Dayton. Mr. Burketta.
Chairman Gray, Commissioners, David Burketta for the record. This is for engineering and construction administration services with Far West Engineering, our county engineer, for a capital project that is approved to start in the beginning of the this coming fiscal year in July. So the 10 Mile Tank Hill project is about an $8 million. We're anticipating about an $8 million total cost for this project. It is absolutely needed, as part of our project. It's going to expand our water distribution system, our storage system. And we've recently had some problems with water main break. And that tank is going to provide to the Copper Canyon subdivision some additional support. So what this specific is normally we budget for about 12% of the construction costs for construction administration related expenses. Again, I mentioned this is about an $8 million project. We estimate construction costs will be just under $5 million. So this total cost is well within the 12%. In fact, it's significantly under the 12% our estimated costs that we typically have associated with capital projects. There's 9 different elements associated with this. And some of these are up and beyond just construction administration. It's completing the project design. It is doing special inspections and integration of the SCADA system. Normally, those are brought as separate contracts. In this case, we want to bring this under just one umbrella so that we can get this project started and moving along and completed as soon as possible. So online, we have Kishore Panda, our engineer. If there's specific questions you want to talk about any of the individual elements that may be associated with this project, we'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Okay, looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve task order 109 with Far West Engineering and an amount not to exceed $468,800 for engineering and support services for final design for the 10 Mile Hill tank.
Second.
Get a motion and a second. Any further discussion with the board?
You're our most expensive employee, the stuff that you bring to us, right?
Unfortunately.
Now, I think Mr. Panda is the most expensive. He's the one that seems to be behind all these. He's the messenger.
Well, that's true. Okay, you're the most expensive messenger we have.
Any public comment? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of item number 20 is presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Dave, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to do this again. If you're, it was a little bit late. If you're for thumb up. Okay, motion passes 5-0. Okay, number 21, agenda request. We will start on my right with Mr. Actually, I'm going to go Mr. Hockett and work from that direction.
Okay.
Balanced. Any agenda
Never
requests?
balanced.
Nope. Any?
Yes, actually, I would like an agenda request for the next meeting to consider canceling or moving the second meeting in July due to the fact that 3 of us will be attending the National Association of Counties Conference on the date that the meeting is currently scheduled. And secondly, we had an item on our last agenda about citizen advisory boards and compliance with training. We kind of blew right over that. And I've had some conversations with Mr. Page already about bringing that back to do a little bit deeper dive into that. And that's all I have.
I've got a quick one here. The Nevada National Guard through General Pearl has requested to come and do a presentation for us on kind of what they're doing and emergency management and whatnot. They're asking for our first meeting in July, time specific. So if we get scheduled up like a 9 a.m. time specific on our first meeting in July, that would be great. Commissioner Kelly.
He already asked for it. I was gonna ask him to move the date in July, so
Okay.
I'm good.
I think we should still have it, but go ahead.
You
I'm
zooming
good.
in?
Mr. Jacobson, do you have anything?
Chairman Gray, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. All right, closes it out. We'll go to commissioner comments and we'll start with Rob.
I just want to thank Andrew Haskins for the report again. Good stuff and appreciate your hard work.
Which one? We heard from him several times today. Commissioner Keller.
I don't think I have anything to add.
And I have nothing. And Mr. Henderson.
I just want to brief, since my sister has, participated in some of our meetings, I just want to report that she did undergo her bone marrow transplant that last Thursday. And so far, knock on wood, things are going very well.
Good.
Fantastic.
And Commissioner Hockaday.
Can't really say anything.
All righty, thank you much. At this point, I've been advised we have no closed session, so we're going to move on to our public participation. Any public participation from the audience or on Zoom? Going once, twice, 3 times, we are adjourned.